Bolgia 8, The Evil Counselors. Dante turns from the thieves toward the evil counselors of the next Bolgia, and between the two he addresses a passionate lament to Florence, prophesying the griefs that will befall her from these two sins. At the purported time of the vision, it will be recalled, Dante was a chief magistrate of Florence and was forced into exile by men he had reason to consider both thieves and evil counselors. He seems prompted, in fact, to say much more on this score, but he restrains himself when he comes in sight of the sinners of the next Bolgia, for they are a moral symbolism. All men of gift who abuse their genius, perverting it to wiles and stratagems, seeing them in hell, he knows his must be another road. His way shall not be by deception. So the poets move on, and Dante observes the eighth Bolgia in detail. Here, the evil counselors move about endlessly, hidden from view inside great flames. Their sin was to abuse the gifts of the Almighty, to steal his virtues for low purposes. And as they stole from God in their lives and worked by hidden ways, so are they stolen from sight and hidden in the great flames which are their own guilty consciences. And as, in most instances at least, they sinned by glibness of tongue, so are the flames made into a fiery travesty of tongues. Among the others, the poets see a great double-headed flame and discover that Ulysses and Diomede are punished together within it. Virgil addresses the flame, and through its wavering tongue Ulysses narrates an unforgettable tale of his last voyage and death. Joy to you, Florence, that your banners swell, beating their proud wings over land and sea, and that your name expands through all of hell. Among the thieves I found 5 who had been your citizens, to my shame, nor yet shall you mount to great honor peopling such a den. But if the truth is dreamed of toward the morning, you soon shall feel what Prato and the others wish for you. And were that day of morning already come, it would not be too soon. So may it come, since it must, for it will weigh more heavily on me as I pass my noon. We left that place. My guide climbed stone by stone the natural stair by which we had descended, and drew me after him. So we passed on, and going our lonely way through that dead land among the crags and crevices of the cliff, the foot could make no way without the hand. I mourned among those rocks, and I mourn again when memory returns to what I saw, and more than usually I curb the strain of my genius, lest it stray from virtue's course. So if some star or a better thing grant me merit, may I not find the gift cause for remorse. As many fireflies as the peasant sees when he rests on a hill and looks into the valley where he tills or gathers grapes or prunes his trees, in that sweet season when the face of him who lights the world rides north, and at the hour when the fly yields to the gnat and the air grows dim, such myriads of flames I saw shine through the gloom of the 8th abyss when I arrived at the rim from which its bed comes into view. As he the bears avenged so fearfully beheld Elijah's chariot depart, the horses rise toward heaven, but could not see more than the flame, a cloudlet in the sky. Once it had risen so within the fosse, only those flames forever passing by were visible, ahead, to right, to left. For though each steals a sinner's soul from view, not one among them leaves a trace of the theft. I stood on the bridge and leaned out from the edge, so far that but for a jut of rock I held to, I should have been sent hurtling from the ledge without being pushed. And seeing me so intent, my guide said, "There are souls within those flames. Each sinner swathes himself in his own torment." "Master," I said, "your words make me more sure, but I had seen already that it was so, and meant to ask what spirit must endure the pains of that great flame which splits away the 2 great horns, as if it rose from the pyre where Eteocles and Polynices lay." He answered me, "Forever round this path Ulysses and Diomede move in such dress, united in pain as once they were in wrath. There they lament the ambush of the horse, which was the door through which the noble seed of the Romans issued from its holy source. There they mourn that for Achilles slain, sweet Didymia weeps even in death. There they recall the Palladium in their pain. Master, I cried, I pray you, and re-pray till my prayer becomes 1,000. If these souls can still speak from the fire, oh, let me stay until the flame draws near. Do not deny me. You see how fervently I long for it. And he to me, since what you ask is worthy, it shall be. But be still and let me speak, for I know your mind already, and they perhaps might scorn your manner of speaking, since they were Greek. And when the flame had come, where time and place seemed fitting to my guide, I heard him say these words to it: "O you two souls who pace together in one flame, if my days above won favor in your eyes, if I have earned, however much or little, of your love, in writing my high verses, do not pass by, but let one of you be pleased to tell where he, having disappeared from the known world, went to die." As if it fought the wind, the greater prong of the ancient flame began to quiver and hum, then moving its tip as if it were the tongue that spoke, gave out a voice above the roar. "When I left Circe," it said, "who more than a year detained me near Gaeta long before Aeneas came, and gave the place that name, not fondness for my son, nor reverence for my aged father, nor Penelope's claim to the joys of love, could drive out of my mind the lust to experience the far-flung world, and the failings and felicities of mankind. I put out on the high and open sea with a single ship, and only those few souls who stayed true when the rest deserted me. As far as Morocco and as far as Spain, I saw both shores, and I saw Sardinia and the other islands of the open main. I and my men were stiff and slow with age when we sailed at last into the narrow pass where, warning all men back from further voyage, Hercules' pillars rose upon our sight. Already I had left Ceuta on the left. Seville now sank behind me on the right. "Shipmates," I said, "who through 100,000 perils have reached the west, do not deny, to the brief remaining watch, our senses stand, experience of the world beyond the sun. Greeks, you were not born to live like brutes, but to press on toward manhood and recognition." With this brief exhortation, I made my crew so eager for the voyage, I could hardly have held them back from it when I was through. And turning our stern toward morning, our bow toward night, we bore southwest out of the world of man. We made wings of our oars for our fool's flight. That night we raised the other pole ahead, with all its stars, and ours had so declined it did not rise out of its ocean bed. 5 times since we had dipped our bending oars beyond the world, the light beneath the moon had waxed and waned, when dead upon our course we sighted, dark in space, a peak so tall I doubted any man had seen the like. Our cheers were hardly sounded when a squall broke hard upon our bow from the new land. 3 times it sucked the ship, and the sea about as it pleased another to order and command. At the 4th, the poop rose, and the bow went down, till the sea closed over us, and the light was gone. Notes. 7. If the truth is dreamed of toward the morning. A semi-proverbial expression, it was a common belief that those dreams that occur just before waking foretell the future. Morning here would equal both the rude awakening and the potential dawn of a new day. 8. Prato. Not the neighboring town, which was on good terms with Florence, but Cardinal Niccolo da Prato, papal legate from Benedict the 11th to Florence. In 1304 he tried to reconcile the warring factions, but found that neither side could accept mediation. Since none would be blessed, he cursed all impartiality and laid the city under an interdict. He forbade the offerings of the sacraments. Shortly after this rejection by the church, a bridge collapsed in Florence, and later a great fire broke out. Both disasters cost many lives, and both were promptly attributed to the papal curse. 34. He the bears avenged. Elisha saw Elijah translated to heaven in a fiery chariot. Later he was mocked by some children who called out tauntingly that he should go up as Elijah had. Elisha cursed the children in the name of the Lord, and bears came suddenly upon the children and devoured them. 2 Kings 2, verses 11 through 24. 53 to 54, the pyre where Eteocles and Polynices lay. Eteocles and Polynices, sons of Oedipus, succeeded jointly to the throne of Thebes, and came to an agreement whereby each one would rule separately for a year at a time. Eteocles ruled the first year, and when he refused to surrender the throne at the appointed time, Polynices led the seven against Thebes in a bloody war. In single combat, the two brothers killed one another. Statius wrote that their mutual hatred was so great that when they were placed on the same funeral pyre, the very flame of their burning drew apart in two great raging horns. 56 through 63, Ulysses and Diomede. They suffer here for their joint guilt in counseling and carrying out many stratagems which Dante considered evil, though a narrator who was less passionately a partisan of the Trojans might have thought their actions justifiable methods of warfare. They are in one flame for their joint guilt, but the flame is divided, perhaps to symbolize the moral that men of evil must sooner or later come to a falling out, for then can be no lasting union except by virtue. Their first sin was the stratagem of the wooden horse, as a result of which Troy fell and Aeneas went forth to found the Roman line. The second evil occurred at Scyros. There Ulysses discovered Achilles in female disguise, hidden by his mother, Thetis, so that he would not be taken off to the war. Diademia was in love with Achilles and had borne him a son. When Ulysses persuaded her lover to sail for Troy, she died of grief. The third count is Ulysses' theft of the sacred statue of Pallas from the Palladium. Upon the statue, it was believed, depended the fate of Troy. Its theft, therefore, would result in Troy's downfall. 72, since they were Greek. Dante knew no Greek, and these sinners might scorn him, first, because he spoke what to them would seem a barbarous tongue, and second, because as an Italian he would seem a descendant of Aeneas and the defeated Trojans. Virgil, on the other hand, appeals to them as a man of virtuous life, who therefore has power over sin, and as a poet who celebrated their earthly fame. Professor McAllister suggests another meaning as well, that Dante and his world had no direct knowledge of the Greeks, knowing their works through Latin intermediaries. Thus Virgil stood between Homer and Dante. 80 and 81, one of you, Ulysses. He is the figure in the larger horn of the flame, which symbolizes that his guilt as leader is greater than that of Diomede. His memorable account of his last voyage and death is purely Dante's invention. 86, Circe. Changed Ulysses' men to swine and kept him a prisoner, though with rather exceptional accommodations. 87, Gaeta, southeastern Italian coastal town. According to Virgil, in the Aeneid, Book 7, it was earlier named Caeta by Aeneas in honor of his aged nurse. 90, Penelope, Ulysses' wife. 98, both shores of the Mediterranean. 101, Narrow Pass, the Straits of Gibraltar, formerly called the Pillars of Hercules. They were presumed to be the western limit beyond which no man could navigate. 104, Ceuta, in Africa, opposite Gibraltar. 105, Seville. In Dante's time, this was the name given to the general region of Spain. Having passed through the straits, the men are now in the Atlantic. 115, morning, night, east and west. 118, we raised the other pole ahead. They drove south across the equator, observed the southern stars, and found that the North Star had sunk below the horizon. The altitude of the North Star is the easiest approximation of latitude, except for a small correction. It is directly overhead at the North Pole, shows an altitude of 45 degrees at north latitude 45, and is on the horizon at the equator. 124, a peak, Purgatory. They sighted after 5 months of passage. According to Dante's geography, the northern hemisphere is land and the southern is all water, except for the mountain of Purgatory, which rises above the surface at a point directly opposite Jerusalem.